All right, looks like Coach Rossi is with us. As a reminder, if you have a question for Coach, go ahead and send me a message in chat. I'll call on you. Unmute your microphone, ask your question to Coach. He'll answer, and then please mute your microphone again. So please send me messages in chat, and we'll get started here in a moment.
How we doing, everyone?
All right, let's go to Blake, Daily Gopher. Blake, go ahead.
Hey, Joe, how critical is that slot corner position to your defense, and what have you seen from players like Justice Harris and Solomon Brown that are competing to replace Chris Williamson at that spot?
That guy plays a big role. He's got to be involved in the run game and the pass game. In the past 2 years, obviously, Chris Williamson was in that spot and did a really nice job for us. The two guys we have, competing in there have both done an elite job, starting in the spring and all the way through the summer. They both bring different things to the table, but they both have a physicality, which is one of the key components for that position because he's got to be able to be in the fits and involved in the run game. So both of the guys we're excited about. Obviously Justice is the more veteran guy, and he's one of the standards for us in terms of what it looks like, in terms of in terms of toughness, technique, work ethic, and Saul has really made huge strides, since the start of camp. So.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go to Daniel House. Daniel.
Hey, Coach, I have a question on Joe Milton. How difficult is it to prepare for a big armed athletic quarterback when you don't have much tape on him?
Yeah, I think that's something that year in, year out, when you're in the opening game, there's always some difficulty and challenges with that just because there's some unknowns. And, we'd like to think there's some unknowns about us as well, that they have to deal with some new personnel and new people. But he's a very, talented player. You can see that on his high school film. He had been, a backup for the last 2 seasons. So he's played in games in 18 and 19. So we were obviously able to see what he's able to do on those films. And so, yeah, he's got a huge arm and he's a big kid. He's athletic. He can run it. So, he's going to be a great challenge.
All right, thank you, Coach. Before we get going, Ryan, our camera operator, if possible, are you able to amplify Coach's audio a little bit? He's just coming through a little quiet. And then we'll keep moving with a question from Ryan Burns.
You want me to go, Paul?
Yes, go ahead, Ryan.
All right. So Michigan's offensive line is replacing 4 all-conference starters, a lot of guys that played a lot of football. So when you look at trying to attack an inexperienced offense really as a whole, is it a lot of stunts and twists like opposing defensive coordinators did to Minnesota's offensive line last year? Or when you look at an inexperienced offense like what Michigan has, how do you kind of go about combating that?
Well, the first thing is they've had guys that played in rotations and guys that got experience, and they've got, a really talented group coming back. So we're expecting these guys, even though there's new starters, it's going to be a great challenge for us. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think anytime there's new people in, there's the element of, hey, it's the first time they're doing it and seeing different looks up front. So we just want to be multiple in what we do. We want to be able to have the ability to run stunts, bring pressures, also play base defense and fits. And, we'll do that. We'll throw a bunch at them, but we expect them, even though they're new starters, they're very well coached and we know that we're going to have our hands full with them.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Let's go to Randy Johnson, Star Tribune.
Yeah. Hi, Joe. What stands out in Boye Mafe's development, and what are your expectations for him this year?
I think just maturity. He's now, to the point where he's kind of on the back end, so to speak, of his career. And anytime that happens, you have experience. You've had mistakes. You've had failings. You've had an opportunity to respond and grow. And, Boye has been a guy that has played a role the last 2 years. And now, obviously, that role is going to expand. He's a very athletic player. He's got some explosion and some pass rush. And so we're very excited about where he's going with his game. I feel like he's been working really hard. And, he's taking on some leadership role as well. But I just think the biggest thing is just perspective and just the maturity aspect.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to Andy Greeter, St. Paul Pioneer Press.
Hi, Joe. I wanted to ask you kind of overall about your defense. 7 new starters, lost 4 NFL draft picks, 4 leading tacklers, didn't have the benefit of a lot of spring ball stops and starts to the season. what's been key for you as you make so many changes defensively?
The first thing is just investing in the whole group. That's been something even before the challenges of 2020 kind of, reared their head like, hey, we got to get this group better. And then as you kind of got into it and realized what the season was going to look like, you knew that it was going to be a situation where you were going to have to play more people than you've ever had before. And so there was an investment back in July whenever we were getting ready for the initial start of the season that we thought was going to happen, and investing in the roster top to bottom on the defensive side of the ball. And then, obviously we had the time away, and then to come back, we just kind of continued that. So the biggest thing is like, who are your people? What do they do well? What don't they do well? And look to put guys in the best positions and feature their strengths. And, from week to week, at times it's going to look different too, because the reality of the situation is there's going to be weeks where some people aren't available, other people are, and that's just part of 2020. And that's part of, our role as coaches is to be able to, hey, who are the guys that are available and what can we do to help them be the best they can be?
Thanks, Coach. Let's go back to Ryan Burns.
Joe, you lost a lot from your linebacking core from last year with Thomas Barber and Kamal Martin now gone. Curious what you've seen from those young guys in fall camp. I know you're really high on Mariano Sori-Marin, but what does life at the other linebacker position also look like?
Well, you're right. We're going to have to play a couple of them, a couple other ones, and I am excited about Mariano. We've got a group that, obviously Mariano's the guy with the experience, played all three spots. Josh Hane's played some football, and then really the rest of the group are very young. They're made up of a lot of true freshmen and redshirt freshmen, but they work their butts off. I couldn't speak highly enough about how hard they work and study and prepare. And that's a testament to Mariano. That's a testament to the guys who were here last year, because they kind of created a culture where the guys really prepare hard. And I've been excited about what we see in the young guys, and the young guys have athleticism. They've got length for the most part, and they can do some things and have some specific skill set that I think are going to be, exciting for people. That said, they're freshmen. They're redshirt freshmen. There's a process to it. A lot of them haven't played in games, and what does that mean? That means, they've got new experiences, and I expect to see them have a starting point at the beginning of the season. That's not the end line when we start the season. That's the starting line. Okay. And then if you watch them go throughout the course of the season, my expectation is that you're going to see a tremendous amount of growth. Why? Because that's what happens with young people. They generally, when they do something for the first time, they get better and better and better and better. And me knowing their work ethic and their character, I have, high expectations for what they'll become. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done from now till then.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go to Eric Strack, a Minnesota sports fan.
Hi, Joe. I wanted to throw it back to Milton, and maybe you touched on this a little bit earlier on in the presser, but he has a big aptitude for big plays, either on the ground, and he's got a huge arm. But when he's used that arm, he's thrown, I think, over 15 yards like 4 times in his career so far, and he's thrown 2 interceptions. So do you see an opportunity for you guys to get some big plays back while still trying to stop them from doing the same thing to you?
Well, here's what I would say. And again, this is kind of, the same thing with Ryan's question about the linebackers. What's on film of him is when he was a 3 and a 2. And there's been a lot of work that's been done. So my expectation is whatever you've seen on film of him in his college career, just expect it to be way better. Because he's older, he's more mature, he's been getting the reps, he's been getting the looks. When he was in games before, usually the game was decided, and maybe that's a portion of the partial reason why they didn't go vertical down the field. We expect to see everything that they were able to do last year and then some, because we think his skill set is so high. And so we expect to see the big throws down the field, vertical passing game, and he has the element of being able to run it. So like I said, he's a great challenge. He's a very talented player, and our guys are aware of him, and they've been told too, like, look, we can look at the 30 snaps that he's had in the last 2 years, but that isn't a good indicator of what he's capable of. What you know that he's capable of, you watch his high school film and just see the type of player and how dynamic he was in high school.
All right, we'll take 2 more. Let's go to Andy Greeter, Pioneer Press, and we'll finish with Daniel House. Go ahead, Andy.
Joe, I remember in Tampa, you talked about Tyler Nubin's even keel demeanor. Obviously, enormous shoes with Antoine Winfield. What have you seen from him, and how do you not keep him from not trying to do too much, knowing who he's trying to replace?
Yeah, because Coach Flex says it all the time. Comparison still your joy. We're not going to worry about Winfield when we're looking at Tyler Nubin. We're going to worry about Tyler Nubin, and Tyler Nubin is a really talented football player. Tyler Nubin has coverage ability. He has physical ability in terms of playing in the run game, and so we're very excited about his upside, his future. He's one of our hardest workers. I know you guys haven't been able to do it, but take my word on it. And when he practices, he's at 100% all the time. That said, he hasn't started a game before, and he's never had to be the guy. So again, and this is probably something that you'll hear me every time talk about young guys. There's going to be a starting point, and from there, it's going to get better and better and better. And we think he has a tremendously high ceiling, and we have high expectations for him, and he has high expectations for himself. But he's just got to be the best version of him every day, and then look to get better and change his best every day. But we're very excited about him.
All right, we'll go to last question for Coach Rossi. Daniel House, go ahead.
Do you think it was actually beneficial having more meetings in the spring to just help the guys understand their role when they got on the field?
Great question. Yes and no. And I say that because the yes part of it is we got to spend a lot of time in meetings, in Zoom meetings. And as I'm sure everyone who's on this Zoom call, after months of those calls, we obviously know it's not the same as being in person, but our guys did a really good job, and our coaches did a really good job of being, just thinking outside the box with some of the things we're able to do with technology. That said, so that portion of it is great, in terms of learning rules in film study. But then at some point you got to go out and do it, because it's one thing to be able to know it on the board, but it's another thing to go do it. If I know it on the board, you wouldn't want to see me in a college football game. That would really be bad for business. So, there's the knowing part of it, and the study part of it, and the role part of it, but then there's the go do it part of it. And obviously, we've been challenged with the go do it part of it because of the limitations on practice. But that's not anything that's unique to us. That's unique to everyone. So then as a coaching staff, you have to kind of be proactive about it, knowing that the opportunities are going to be less. And then what are you going to do to make sure that you're putting your guys in the best spot? You see around the country a lot of big plays being give up on the defensive side of the ball. And so there's a challenge that everyone has. And then it's going to be, what's your solution and what's your response to the challenge? So, good question. And yeah, there was benefits to it, but then there was also challenges to it as well.
All right, thank you, Coach. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back momentarily with offensive coordinator Mike Sanford.
Thanks, everyone. It's good to see your faces getting ready for a football game. Take care.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, I think we're back. I believe Coach Sanford, there he is. Perfect. Thank you, Coach.
I think I'm live now. Everybody can hear me?
All right, perfect. Now we're live. All right. If you have a question for Coach Sanford, send me a message in chat and we'll get going. I'll call on you, unmute your microphone, ask the question, mute it back, and we'll go. So Andy Greeter, St. Paul Pioneer Press, go ahead.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Andy?
Good. So thanks for taking the time. One thing that Tanner Morgan mentioned a couple of Zooms ago was going to football school in the off season. Can you kind of walk through how you tried to introduce your offense, your scheme, those kinds of things to get on the same page with those guys?
Yeah, I think it was a really good opportunity, and it really started back in January, February, and it continued on through this summer, and what we became our new norm with was Zoom meetings in the spring, and it started obviously with just the understanding and recognition and communication of how we're going to call defenses, how we're going to call defensive structures, and really that's a big part of Tanner's game that's been so strong. He was trained very well here at University of Minnesota and understanding coverages, and I wanted to take it to that next level with him and with the quarterback group and with Zach and the crew that we have in terms of understanding the entire picture and how all 22 fit together. And so that process was done over the course of the last really 8-9 months and 10 months that and I've seen just exponential growth in Tanner's game. I think the most important thing is that we did all of that in this quote unquote dead time, this dead space where we didn't even know if a college football season existed. And then knowing that we were going to get to this point in time where we were going to have a chance to truly just focus on us. But ahead of that, it was by design intended to give him more understanding of how, defensive fronts fit into the why of coverages and the why of pressures. And obviously facing Don Brown's defense probably couldn't have come at a better time to be able to get deeper into the why of defensive structure, because certainly this Michigan defense run by Don Brown, as well as anybody can run a defense, has a lot that is thrown at you.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go to Matt Fortuna with The Athletic. Matt.
Hey, Matt, it's been a while.
Hey, Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you.
In your time around him, what have you learned about Rashad as far as what makes him tick on and off the field, and what he ultimately hopes to accomplish on and off the field by coming back this season?
The thing that I've seen with Rashad, and I was so excited to have a chance to be around him because, I really had just 2-3 practices with him in the spring and didn't have a chance to get to know really who he is. Obviously I know who he is as a player, but who he is, under the surface, what makes him tick. And, the thing that I've been so pleased with, not only with Rashad, but just the entire culture of what we have here at the University of Minnesota, is that there truly is an others first mentality. And I really think that is why Rashad ultimately chose to come back, is because he truly does care about his teammates. He truly does miss being around the guys, and he did miss being around the guys. And I think that really, it came back and it showed an incredible act of selflessness from Rashad. The other morning he was coming in, literally it's like 5:50 in the morning, and I was walking in about a week ago, and Rashad's walking into the building at 5:50 in the morning. They didn't have anything mandatory until about 7:45, I believe. And I saw Rashad, and we were walking in, it's, chilly outside. And I just told him, I said, Rashad, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to get to know you, not just you as a player, but know you. And I'm so excited to see what you're capable of doing, because it's truly about your sacrifice to your teammates and your love for your teammates. And that's a powerful thing. And so he's such an elite competitor. He has so many incredible attributes as a player, but what I've seen is he's got even more attributes as a human being. And that's been incredible to watch and to see that relationship with he and his teammates and how much that means to him.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go to Ryan Burns. Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, Ryan.
I was curious what you see as the biggest challenges going against the Don Brown defense that, schematically, generally what he's going to do, but they are losing a lot, especially in their back seven.
Yeah, certainly just an incredibly well-coached football team. But, in addition to being so well-coached and the scheme being very unique and very diverse, they play so hard. And to me, that's the characteristic you're always looking for, in a defense. When you put on the film, what type of effort do they play with? And that's cultural. That's cultural, both in Coach Harbaugh and Coach Brown's system. You can see that. And that's going to be, the challenge is that we have to match their will each and every snap. And they have a tremendous will. Certainly they've lost players, but let's be honest, who hasn't lost players across college football? Especially when you look at the elite football programs, and you look at the top of the top. There's football players every single program that are no longer on the team for a multitude of reasons, whether it be from graduation, the NFL draft, opting out, injuries. There's so many key pieces that are missing around when you watch college football. But one thing that's not going to be missing, and I know this firsthand from 2015 Notre Dame, we played Boston College, and that was a Don Brown led defense as well. Is you're going to have incredible how, their will to match your intensity is going to be there, and that's what we have to prepare for. That our will has to exceed that, and that's what you see is in addition to the scheme, in addition to the blitz packages that you see, you also see just incredible fire in how they play. And the guys that really start that are the returners that for sure. Aiden Hutchinson, first round talent and certainly top 5 in terms of the way he plays the game. Quiddy Pays in the same conversation, certainly a top 10 talent, and plays extremely hard. And McGrone, the backer, these are guys that have the talent and they play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And that's a cultural piece that whoever the pieces are on the back end, and they're replacing a good group. A very good group, a lot of NFL players that they're replacing on the back end. Whoever's replacing that, they're going to be up to the talent level that Michigan has, but also the culture that they've put in place defensively.
Ryan, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I was just curious to get your thoughts on 2 inexperienced guys on your offense that figure to get some time this fall, and Trayson Potts and Brevin Spanford.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of faces in general on each side of the ball, and certainly on both teams that are going to get opportunities to make things happen. And I think those are 2 examples, Brevin and Trayson, of guys that we're really excited about. But there's others too, and we'll obviously continue to see that develop as the season progresses. But certainly everybody's talked about what we plan to do with our tight end play and utilizing the tight end. That's certainly something that I think is it's already been done here. Look at the significance of Bryce Witham's Outback Bowl and what he did in critical moments. So it's not anything that's completely new to the University of Minnesota program in the last few years. Brevin's, he obviously brings about athleticism and skill set, but one thing that I feel very strongly about is that there's other tight ends in that room that can bring us those types of attributes to be able to utilize their unique skill sets and gifts. And it all starts with being a physical player. That's the bottom line, is that we have to be physical at that position and every position for us to be able to get what we want first and foremost in the run game, and then you continue to expand that into the pass game.
All right, let's go to Randy Johnson, Star Tribune.
Yeah, hi, Mike. What have you seen out of Chris Ottman-Bell this fall, and what are your expectations for him this season?
Well, I think the time that Chris had, where Rashad clearly had opted to enter the NFL draft, that time was invaluable for Chris. He was the bell cow. He was the experienced guy, and I think that's the first time that he's been in that role. But he's played a lot of football. He's made explosive plays for this football program, this football team. So I think you saw a situation where he was forced to not only become the main guy in terms of production in fall camp, if you will, or whatever we call the different camps that we had, but he also was put into a leadership role where there's a lot of good, young, talented receivers that he was leading. And so now you bring Rashad back into that fold. You see other players that had to elevate their game as a result of Rashad not being, quote unquote, with us for several weeks or month. And you see an elevated Chris Ottman-Bell, which is exciting. And we're excited to see the continued development of that room. There's a lot of really exciting pieces.
Let's go to Daniel House.
Hey, Mike, after working with Tanner for the past few months, what's impressed you the most about him?
Just his competitive will to succeed in every facet of his life. He truly is, I know that the saying's been used around here in terms of he is a 5-star heart. He's a 5-star son to his family. He's a 5-star, boyfriend to his girlfriend. I mean, like literally everything that Tanner does is in an unbelievable way. He truly is everything that you'd want to coach as a human being. But the thing I love about him too is he's very naturally talented too. I think that's he's got a tremendous trigger, gets the ball out of his hands. And his preparation is that of a pro. And that goes along with that 5-star, in every aspect of his life. He truly is the guy that is demanding office space in our building right now, and if it wasn't for COVID protocols, I think we'd have him with a full office space. But he puts forth, I think there's 7-hour days that he's putting in that are just preparation on his own with nobody asking him to do it. And, he is just chomping at the bit every single opportunity he has that he can learn more and grow more. I just love his preparation. I love where he's at from just an overall command standpoint. But we got to go out and play it. And we got to enjoy that process of playing as well, just as much as he enjoys the process of the work itself.
All right, we'll take 2 more. Let's go back to Andy Greeter, Pioneer Press, and then we'll finish with Blake from Daily Gopher. So Andy, go ahead.
Mike, as you've bounced around to other programs, what's been the keys for you as you've implemented your offense? And then in the first game, what are the things that you need to see kind of out of the jump that they're, acclimating to it and producing?
Yeah, I think here, the thing that's so indicative of what this program's all about is that, the process itself and just how we go about our business, like today, and then Thursday, then Friday. Like if we treat every single game, which is each practice is a game, if we treat it in a game-like mentality, then the results are going to happen on Saturday. And I think that's the big thing, is not having, any kind of fear or, oh man, I hope we do this, or, I'm praying that we have a great game, or we have to do that each and every day. And I think today was a prime example, just from a practice perspective, of making a practice feel game-like in terms of our enthusiasm, our effort, our strain. And that's what we need to continue to do. And if we do that, and our players put forth the effort that was aforementioned with Tanner Morgan and his preparation, and other guys, the offensive linemen that are spending copious amounts of hours preparing, if we are in that space, then the results will be the results, and we'll be in a place where we can evaluate those results. But I think the process truly is what we have to be about. And that's what I've learned, is when you put too much in terms of, hope we're okay on Saturday, then you're not in a good place. And so we've really, I think our group of players, our young men, have done an elite job of being fully embraced in the process and encapsulated with the process.
All right, we'll go to Blake for the last question. Blake, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, what is your relationship with Matt Simon been like, and how does that offensive coordinator position work when you essentially have responsibilities split between 2 coaches?
It's been terrific. And it starts with respect. The relationship starts with respect. I got a lot of respect for Matt in his football mind. He's an incredible football mind. Knows the game inside and out, knows fronts, knows run fits, knows structures of overall defense, has a lot of great ideas, has studied the game at a high level. And so it starts with respect. And I have a ton of respect for Matt as a football coach, and that relationship's been really positive. We're working together, both truly working together in formulating a game plan, working together with Kenny Burns and with Brian Callahan and Clay Patterson. We're working together as a unit to put together the best plan to put our players in a position to be successful. Matt knows this conference incredibly well. Matt knows our personnel incredibly well. Brian Callahan knows, offensive line play, the run game, protection game, as well as any offensive line coach that I've ever been around. And so collaboratively, I feel like we put together a plan that our players are going to be in a position to be successful if we execute and we play with incredible effort and continue to trust our process. Matt is going to be very influential and instrumental in what we do on game day. Literally, I'm like, we're right next to each other, lock in step the whole game, communicating through each and every scenario, communicating through each and every look, making adjustments. And I'm very grateful for Coach Fleck for giving us the opportunity to do that a lot in our shortened training camp. If we had, a handful of true live practices, we were up in the press box for over half of them. And us going through the mechanics of calling a game, lock in step together, seeing it the way that we want to see it together. And, if there's any indication of how that is going to go, based on the results that we got in a big scrimmage, I was very pleased with that communication and just that ebb and flow that Matt and I have together on a game day situation.
All right, thank you, Coach. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Just a quick reminder, we do have Chris Ottman Bell at 1 p.m. So that's a separate Zoom link. So thank you again, Coach.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.